yeah, it's a war, but it's the only one we have, and maybe I'll figure out something about myself. I wanted to find out if I could do what I was supposed to do in combat.
Our job was to work with not Americans. We were out in the middle of nowhere on the Cambodian-Vietnamese border, about 75 clicks north of Saigon, in what they refer to as Three Court, in an area called the Fishhook. And our job was to run continuous operations in an area of operations, which we called an AO. And our job was to kill anything that moved. I guess if there was anything that was very difficult, it was getting past your fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of finding yourself in a situation that was way beyond what you imagined it was going to be. People get hurt in combat, so and in a jungle, it's very difficult to know when somebody is even 200 yards away sometimes. So I think I think most people would agree that the most difficult thing to overcome in combat is fear. And the more difficult part is coming home. I left my wife 8 months pregnant when I went to Vietnam. So the first time I saw my son was when he was almost 11 months old. And I was to meet her in Hawaii. The R&R was delayed because of the Tet Offensive, which was the North's major push. And so it slowed and delayed everything down, and we were all involved in that Tet Offensive one way or another. I left, met my wife after the Tet Offensive, and was with her for the first time in almost a year. First time I'd seen my son. So by the end of the R&R, which was 5 nights, I think, 6 nights, I couldn't wait to leave and get back to Vietnam because I knew how to do that. It's funny, I was just talking about this the other night, and I don't talk a lot about it, but I was reading this book, Matterhorn, which I mentioned, and it was reminding me of a lot of things. And I think what happens in combat, as I said, you learn to do a job, and you become somebody. You don't become different, you just become less sensitive about things. So that's why it becomes so hard when you come home, because the wife doesn't understand that, and kids don't understand that. Most people in America don't understand that. But when you're there, you become somewhat hardened to things that you see, and I still remember we had come to Saigon, or to Bien Hoa, which was where our B team was, and we were coming back to the A team, and the mountain yards and Cambodians would try to get on the helicopters to get back to the A team. And they were crazy. I mean, we would get on a helicopter because we were Americans. We were the 2 Americans that they were taking back out to the A team, but it was anyone's guess who got on, and as Americans, we'd kind of get the fuck out of the way, And I can still remember they used to carry their babies on slings, and there was this one woman who came into the helicopter, and as she came in, hit the door, the head of the baby, hit the edge of the door. Big gash on the baby's head, just cut it right down the middle. Baby didn't cry, he's dead, and she's just sitting there, because she's got a seat. She's not paying any attention to the baby, because she wants out of there, as badly as anybody else, I guess. And we're trying to get her off the helicopter. And I still remember, get the fuck out of here! You just killed your baby. God damn it! What's wrong with you? And that kind of thing. And then I remember later, I'd been there 13 months, something like that. And we were on our way, we were in the Delta, and we were on our way to a village. And we were going to get a beer. And as we're driving, a Vietnamese deuce and a half, that's the big truck that they have, hits one of the little motor scooter deals that were everywhere. You know, these little Lambrettas, and they carried everything on them, either bikes or Lambrettas, that kind of thing. Hit one, and it flipped, and the guy hit this, ran right over his head. Didn't squash it, just caught the tip of it, but cut it. And so I was the only medic in the Jeep, and the guy said, "Hey, Cyphers, see what's going on?" So I jump out and I look at him and I go, "He's fine." And I get back in the Jeep, and that was all there was to it. Because you learn to deal with that. Everything is triage. Everything is black and white. Everything is, you don't think a lot about those kinds of things. I can remember coming home with a guy, Steve Homestead. We'd been through training all together. We'd been in Vietnam. We weren't on the same A team, but we came back together. And he was 20. I'm 21. I can drink beer. So we go immediately we go to a bar. You know, and as we're coming in, these people are yelling, "You fascist pigs," and we're looking at each other and kind of smiling and going, "What the fuck's wrong with these guys? You know, they must be crazy." And we go to the bar, of course, and I still remember there was a woman bartender. So we order a beer and she asked for IDs. Well, Steve's only 20. We'd been drinking beers, you know, over in Vietnam, you know, and I start getting upset, and Steve says, "Ray, it's okay, we're back home." You know, that kind of a thing. You had to remind yourself. And this lady's going, "I can't serve him, and I don't like serving you guys anyway." You know, that kind of a thing. And this was at an airport, you know, on our way finally back home, that kind of a thing. So we really became more aware of it.
When you were there.
Here's how removed we were. Johnson was the president. Frequently people misunderstand and believe that Johnson's the guy who got us out of Vietnam. He was the one who built it up to as many people as there were. It was Nixon who got us out of Vietnam. But at any rate, you might remember, you wouldn't remember, but you might have read about it, and you certainly remember when Johnson made an announcement from the White House that he wasn't going to run for re-election. And we got to see that on TV. and on an A-team out in the middle of nowhere, right? And we're looking at it. And I'm going to ask you, what do you think our response was when we heard that?
It's excited.
No, what we said was, "Fuck me, fuck you." I mean, we got to stay here and you're leaving? You're no longer the commander-in-chief. You just decide, "I don't like it, it's too hard, so I'm out of here." We can't leave. You know, that was our response. A little different than
maybe excited though that the next president would pull you out.
No, we didn't think about that. We thought about winning the war.
He was just getting out.
And frankly, we would have won the war if the press hadn't decided to fight it. I mean, that was really what happened. Because if you look at I remember the last 10 days I was there, ready to go home, and I was really ready. I must have cleaned my weapon 4 times a day. It was crazy, you know. I mean, it was like you could do it in your sleep. It was, you know, you just. But that was part of the deal, you know. So. The name is Ray Cyphers, Raymond Cyphers. I was with the 5th Special Forces Group, 1967 through 68, 18 months. Rank of sergeant. Came back healthy.
It's dark. It is completely oppressive. It's hot. It's steamy. There are swamps everywhere in most places. If there's any water, there are beaches.